Alright. There we go. Here we are. Little spoopy game. Let's do it. Let's do this. Here it is. Fucking DAGON is what it's called. And I love H.P. Lovecraft, so this should be interesting. DAGON is this faithful, interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequence, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through location along with the plot.
I'm writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
There we go. During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting fact about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes. Okay? Sure, for the Elden Sign, so I guess we just have ADS in this game. You can also access all the found fact later. They will be available in the main menu. Okay, cool.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death. It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Can I move around? No, it's just mouse space.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
The Huns were Central Asian nomads. Oh my god, I'm having a stroke. Who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. I don't know what AD means. I'm French. I'm sorry. I think it's like before, like JC question mark. I'm not sure. They were known as brutal, deadly warrior and master of quick raid, who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word HUNS as a synonym for German in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on 27th July 1900. I'm trying so hard. Before they embark to China, I need more coffee. Should you encounter the enemy, it will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoner will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Forfeit? Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns, under their king Attila, made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. Made a name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. That's, very trying to, just make up for something here, I have a feeling. But it's okay. The refusal to take prisoner was a clear breach of the law, and custom of war adopted during the First Hague Convention in 1899. Alright, cool. Going on a boat?
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Interesting. Oh, water and provision.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
No good. That is no good, my guy. You're gonna die. Oh my god,
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
I hear a dog. Is that in my building? That could be in my building.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight. The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept.
The change? Are we gonna turn into Cthulhu?
Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
Yeah, there's also, like, you know, those things all over.
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
Yeah, I see that.
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there
As one
was
would
in
be.
the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core.
That's
The
nasty.
region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Oh. Dagon seems to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Irwin S. Cobb about unnatural affinity between the I'm dying. A hybrid idiot and a strange fish of an isolated lake. Supernatural horror in literature. H.P. Lovecraft. In a Lovecraft's dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. I dreamed that whole hideous crawl and can yet feel the ooze sucking me down. In defense of Dagon, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft's interest in the topic stemmed from his aversion to fish and sea smell. In his own words, I have hated fish and feared the sea and everything connected with it since I was 2 years old. but I cannot recall what earlier experience gave me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. The Dweller in Darkness, H.P. Lovecraft, 1927, Donald or Wondre? Wondre. Okay, so that explains why his horror novel about ocean are so goddamn terrifying. It's because he hates it like I do. Sounds.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain
What
my
is that?
position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
I don't think that's how it works.
Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
I mean, that's not a bad thing, is it?
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
Okay, we're making progress.
That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
I hate that. I hate that. I hate all of that. How can you sleep? How are you sleeping with this?
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
That is so long. That is so gross.
The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Okay.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
What the fuck is that? That is alien. That is alien. That's not fish. Those are not fish. Oh my god. Is that a whale? That is a whale. No.
That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
No, maybe because you shouldn't be there?
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night.
I mean, I think I know why. Did you see where you slept?
But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
Okay, cool.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day.
What do you mean?
Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
Why would you travel by night?
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset.
I think you're just going insane, man. I don't think it has anything to do with the sun.
Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Alright, cool. Let's go die. Die. Oh, okay.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world,
Horrible.
peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost,
Terrifying.
and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
We actually gonna okay. Because we are
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I
What
scrambled
is that?
with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me.
it's pretty far, man.
An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
I feel like that's fear.
For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith.
No shit,
Whose
Sherlock.
massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Oh, did you know? Oh, wait, we're looking around first. Jesus Christ, that is tall. Hate it.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
That's not good, dude!
And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope.
I mean, maybe don't.
Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith.
Cyclopean? Cyclopean, that's what you're going for?
On whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Oh god.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books. Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic
That is
symbols
Cthulhu.
such as fishes, eels, octopi.
That is Cthulhu's face in the middle right
whales,
there.
and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain.
Okay.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Oh, you mean Cthulhu's face? More reading. DAGON contains many theme and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carving, At the Mountains of Madness, The Nameless City, journals and characters note, The Shadow Out of Time, The Hunter of the Dark, Island Emerging from the Ocean, The Call of Cthulhu, yeah, we know that one, fictional being and deities based on the real event and mythology, Migo and the Whisperer in Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a matter similar to Dagon, but let's skip the detail in order to not spoil the ending. Yeah, I was gonna say, please don't. Hi, cool. Hey, Cthulhu.
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
Those are mermaids, man.
Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail.
I wish I could look around right now.
The mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Did he just refer to... Yeah, he did. I love him. Love that.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips. Glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Sure, let's go with that.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
The fuck did you see? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Do we have to do that?
A slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sound.
Okay. Cool.
I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Fair. Oh, we're just... Okay, we're just going.
I believe
Oh,
I
God.
sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
You sang? Why the fuck were you singing, my guy?
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat.
Oh my god, I hate it.
And that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Gonna end up underwater, isn't he?
When I came
Ooh.
out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing.
Alright.
Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Fair. Okay. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism in 1915. He started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short story, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticism to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. I love that. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1919, is one of the short stories written during that period. In his example excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explained his attitude toward warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in the wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. Sounds about right. No country is or ever can be above warfare until the basic impulse of the human animal shall have miraculously changed. You know, he's not wrong. We all suck. Alright. I opened myself for a second.
I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Oh, Dagon. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistine, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. Interesting. The ruler of Akkad, Mesopotamia, Jesus Christ, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquest. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem in an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name. As in Hebrew, the word dag means fish. I love how we're all dumb. In H.P. Lovecraft's work, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones. A humanoid race with fish trait that reside in the ocean, he is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Interesting. I love that. Are we gonna go back and like try to figure out the rest? Is there more? I think there now. Oops. But soon perceived that it was hopelessly conventional. I did not press my inquiries. Alright. Here it is. Auguste DERLETH was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his work through his company, Arkham House. Although he certainly contributed to the popularization of the author's work, after his death he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the gods versus evil doctrine. DERLETH was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's work are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. Interesting. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu's mythos was coined by DERLETH after the author left the mortal plane. kind of sucks, man. Just respect the men and what you wanted to write. Don't stop twisting things. Like, everybody does that all the time. So annoying. That's it? We're done here? Hold on.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now, I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Come on, dude. Don't do that.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat, after my escape from the German man-of-war.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Jesus, dude.
The end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me.
Oh, I think it did.
God, that hand! The window! The window!
Oh, he is gonna jump, isn't he? All right. Well, it was shorter than I thought it would be, not gonna lie. But that was pretty good. I love that. It was pretty much just, you know, there's this trivia. I love that. It was pretty much just like a story, like H.P. Lovecraft story, but interactive novel, as they call, of an H.P. Lovecraft thing. I love that. I love that. I love that. I'm okay with that. Alright, so. My thing is so dark. Oh my fucking god. Don't go, it's better. We're getting there. We're doing things. Okay, so. That was it for Dagon, actually. I I might play another little spoopy game, or I might just get into Destiny. I'm not sure. Did I do that one? I did not do that one. Should we do that one? Actually, I need to get shit done, sadly. So yeah. Okay. So I think that's gonna be it for now. If I have time to come back later and play a little bit of Destiny or something, we're gonna do that. But for now, sadly, it's gonna have to be it. So I will hopefully see you guys later. If not, it's gonna be tomorrow. All right. Cool. 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 Cool.